Alright, let's move on. So, indispensable things to know. Important things to lay out the foundation before we actually start developing stuff with JavaScript. So one thing to remember that JavaScript is case sensitive. So unlike Apex or when we're writing Sockle in Salesforce, which are case insensitive, right? Case insensitive when we write in Apex and Sockle, but JavaScript is case sensitive. So for example, if I declare a variable my bike, right, equals mountain bike, for example, and we try to access it, console.log, and you type it my bike, that is going to error out because this is with a capital B and this has no capital. So remember that. So it's case sensitive. So if we want to try run this guy, if I'm going to save this, and let me open up that file, open, and I'm going to choose the zone, JS, and index. And we're going to open the developer console here, developer tools, and see we have one error. My bike is not defined, right? Now if I change this guy to my bike with a capital B and save that and refresh this guy, now we have no error and it's going to display mountain bike. So that's how it is case sensitive. Moving on, I'm gonna go back here. Oops, where is my trailhead? Oh, I'm gonna close my console. All right. So declaring variables, we can declare variables using the var, let, and const. In general, we use let and const. So what is the difference between var and let? Is the scope. The scope of var is function wide, and the scope of let and const is block wise. We'll go into that later because this is just a foundation and introduction to the JavaScript. We're not gonna go into depth of each and explain everything here. Mutable means it can be reassigned. We're gonna look at that just below here. So var you can reassign because it's a variable. Same thing with let, you can reassign the value. But with const, it's a constant, right? You cannot reassign it. It's a constant. Okay? So, moving on. All variables are pointers. Pointers. Assignments is the act of pointing that variable to something in memory. Mutability is whether or not a variable can be reassigned once it has initially been assigned to something. So we use var or let to create mutable pointers, meaning we can reassign the value. As is often case, the best understood by a demonstration, which you can click and it's going to pop up here. Alright, so on here we have a variable, my bike, mountain bike, and let current gear is 5. So the current gear of the bike is gear number 5. And then we declare a constant, a const, the number of gears is 12. The total number of gears that is in the bike is 12. There is total 12 gears. You can't change that, right? But the gear we can change. We can shift the gear to 5 and then 4, 3, 2, 1 or 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's changeable. So this is the reassignment. My bike, penny farthing, current gear 1. Well, you can't reassign the number of gear because it's a constant, right? You can't reassign that. So it says assignment to constant variable is error. So I can comment this out, and then if I clear and then run again, there is no error. All right. So if I uncomment this, we have an error. So that's what it means. We cannot reassign a constant. Okay. So throughout this module, we have a JS bin demonstration where we can just click on the link there and it'll pop up a JS bin. All right. So I'm going to close this. So how does this reassignment works? I want to show you a bit. So this is memory, right? Once we have in our computers, either you have a Mac, a Windows, a Dell computer, an Apple computer, Samsung computer, a Chromebook, whatever. Every computer has a memory chip. So when we are assigning variables, let me just pop this up again. When we are assigning var MyBike and assign a value, this actually triggers something in our computers, in the chip here, something like this, right? So the name, for example, is sum or age or MyBike. The type is integer. The value is whatever, penny farthing or something, or mountain bike, right? Or penny farthing. And then it's gonna fill this memory chip, this chip here, which look like this. A tiny part of the chip will have some data. So this is where the variable sum resides, with the type of the data is an integer and the value is that. It actually occupies the memory chip, just like a house where you live. It occupies it, right? So when you reassign the variable value, right, the variable name is still MyBike. It's still the same variable name, but the value is now penny farthing, not fart, farthing. I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyways, now the location is still the same, right? The location of the variable is still the same. The name is still the same, MyBike. The type is still the same, in this case string, right? But the value changes from MyBike to penny farthing. It's still on the same physical address location when you reassign the value. All right. So that's what happens in the actual physical computer chip kind of thing. When you play or assign or declare variables, assign a value to it, it actually populates this memory chip with a tiny part of data and it fills it in. So that's how the code works in this chips, all right? So, okay, that's that. So we've talked about JavaScript plugin as a valuable tool. This is the JS bin, which we just pop up here. We will play around here a bit throughout this module. We've talked about this. It's erroring out because we are reassigning a constant, right? It doesn't like it. So, okay, we've talked about that. And then here, this is important. When working with objects rather than primitive objects, remember that const only prevents reassigning your variable to a different object. The object itself, its properties, functions, and so on can still be changed as seen below. So I'm going to pop this up actually. Pop this up. All right. So now we have a constant is an object bike, okay, and it has a function front index and then rear index, okay, and then it's just assigning this object front gear index is front index if assigned, otherwise or 0. This object, this bike object rear gear index, assign it to whatever is passed to the rear index here. If nothing is assigned, 0. And then this transmission front gear teeth 30, 45, rear gear teeth, this is a declaration of the array. Okay, we won't go too deep about this. So basically, prototype by calculate gear ratio, we have a function here. And we have a whole bunch of functions: change gear, front up, front down, rear down, right? And then we declare, we instantiate the bike to a new bike, but using a const. So it's not a var or a let. Okay, we declare a constant bike. The name is bike, instantiated from the bike object here. Okay, so we have a new object called bike, and then we say bike change gear front up, and then bike type is penny farthing, blah blah blah. But then at the end we say bike new bike. We can't, because this bike is already declared here as a constant. Okay, this bike is already declared as a constant. Because it's a constant, you can't change it to another object or try to instantiate it. It's going to error out. Assignment to a constant variable. Okay, so if I take this out and rerun, or clear first and then run, see, there is no error. So as you can see, we have instantiated the bike as a constant, but then we can change values. Bike change gear, we can change that. The bike type we can change to penny farthing. So we can still change the properties, or the properties of the object after we declare it as a constant, but we cannot reassign it to another object. It will error out. I hope you're not overwhelmed. Don't worry if you are, because we are still just getting started, and this trailhead actually jump into some very foundational that needs quite an explanation, but we will get back to this, okay? Especially the object part. Don't be worried if you're, what on earth are you talking about, Jimmy? I'm still confused. So try to replay this video slowly. You know, on YouTube you can slow down the video, right? The playback speed. Slow it down if I'm speaking too fast. If I'm speaking too slow, speed it up. Okay, that's what I do when I'm learning stuff as well. So that's it. We are going to learn, the next video is about implicit type coercion. This is also fun. I'll see you on the next video. Bada bing, bada boom. Hit that subscribe button and explore new trailhead grounds and learn to implement the most useful and popular apps on the Salesforce App Exchange. And do yourself a favor. Like this video and you'll be surprised on how much more you understand when watching this same video after liking it. Don't take my word. Watch this one more time after you like the video and see it for yourself. Bada bing, bada boom.